everybody should be open to a new clean page in their vocab notebook. In the social studies section, the title of today's notes is Chapter 3, Lesson 3, which is called Neighboring Countries. Now this is a spelling word, so everybody should be able to spell neighbor, and then you just add ing for the ing. Neighboring countries. Remember, countries, the singular form is C-O-U-N-T-R-Y. Whenever you have consonant Y, like R-Y, if you're making it plural, you change the Y to an I, and then you add ES. And then, of course, you need to add the date, December 7th, 2020. And, of course, we're going to start with number 1. So go ahead, once you have all of that, go ahead and put your notebook under your textbook and be ready to read on page 84. You should be on page 84 in your textbook, bless you, ready to follow along with your finger or a bookmark if you have one. Or whenever you get an extra index card from me, if you don't use it, those are really good things to use as guides when you're reading. Because they're plain, so they're not distracting. They have a flat edge, so they're really good to use to help you keep your place as you're reading. Okay, notebooks under your textbooks so that nobody is doodling or anything like that while they should be reading. Your textbook should be open to page 84. I forgot the sticks on my desk, so let me go grab them really quick. Okay, so go ahead and read, starting with the lesson title on page 84, Smith. Everybody ready to follow along with your finger? Loud and slow. Hold on, let me make sure the volume's all the way up. Okay, go ahead.
Neighboring countries. You are there. Imagine soaring far above Earth in a space shuttle. You are hundreds of miles above North America. Still, the continent is easy to identify. The blue waters of the Atlantic, Pacific, and Arctic Oceans clearly define its shape. You cannot see the borders between the countries in North America. Like most borders, they are imaginary lines. As viewed from space, no countries can be seen. All you see is one continent that all those countries share.
So remember, are the borders of states and countries actual literal lines on the ground that we can see with our eyes? You can show me. No, they're not. They're imaginary lines that when we look at a map, we can see. But when we actually, if you look at the Earth from space, you're not going to actually be able to see where one state ends and another begins. Now, you'll know, if as long as you know the states, like you should, you'll have an idea of where each state is, but you won't see those outlines. You won't be able to see where the United States ends and Canada begins, or at the bottom where Mexico begins. But you can tell what North America looks like because it has its own special shape, just like all the continents. Who can name the countries in North America? Or at least some of the countries, the big countries in North America. Smith, tell me one.
The United States.
The United States, of course. Victoria, tell me another. Canada, very good. Kingston, tell me another. Mexico. And then we have a whole group of countries that we refer to as what? They're below Mexico, but above South America. What do we refer to those countries as? It's the ones 4th grade usually does during the Hispanic Heritage Month, which we didn't do this year. It's not North America, it's not South America, but it is in the center. So we call it, Michaela? Not the Midwest. That's in the United States. I'm talking about the continent of the continents. What's in this? If it's in the center of North America and South America, the Americas, then we call it Central America. Now, is that one country? Think about what I said a minute ago. Is Central America one country? Zadie?
No.
No, it's a bunch of small countries put together, but they are part of North America. So, let's keep reading so that we can learn more about the neighboring countries. So, the focus of this lesson, if the name of this lesson is neighboring countries, do you think that the focus of this lesson is going to be the United States? You can show me. No, because neighboring countries. If you're talking about your neighbor's house, does that have anything to do with your house? No, it's just right next door, your neighbor. So we're going to be talking more about the countries around the United States. A country is an example of what type of region? Political, cultural, economic, or physical? Mason. Political, because one country shares a what, Mason? Not a border. Political regions do have exact borders. Mason? A government. And remember, a political region is a region where everybody shares the same government and they have exact borders. So each country is a type of political region. So we're going to be talking about political regions around the United States, not the United States today. So let's talk about the first one, the biggest one. Imagine a map of the world, North America. What is the biggest country in North America? It's not the United States. So that means you need to think of, okay, Canada, Mexico, all those tiny little countries in Central America. Which one is the biggest? Colin?
Canada.
Canada, correct. So that's where we're going to talk about first. So thank you, Smith. Go ahead and read next. Me. Okay, everybody follow along. Just because I'm reading, does that mean you get to tune out? No, it means you need to pay attention even more. So sit up straight, finger ready to follow along on page 85. We're on the section that is titled Canada. I need to see fingers or bookmarks ready to follow along. Ethan, make sure you're following along. It's not going to be helpful if you're not. You want to be able to do your homework well. Make sure you're following along. Canada. Canada is North America's largest political region. So, Cullen, were you correct? Saying that Canada was the largest country in North America? Yes. In fact, Canada is the second largest country in the world. Let's see who knows their geography. What do you think the largest country in the world is? Canada's the second largest. What do you think the largest country is? Kingston? Asia is a continent. That means there's a bunch of different countries. Mason? Russia. Very good. Russia is the largest country. Think of a map of the world. Russia is massive. It is massive. It is so big. It's on 2 continents. Who knows what 2 continents Russia is on? This is another. Who's good at geography? Smith, what 2 continents is Russia in?
Europe and Asia.
Europe and Asia. Very good. I would pull the map down so we can look at it, but then I never get it back up, and then it would frustrate me. Yes, Colin, quickly.
Didn't you have a kid last year from Russia?
Yes, Bella. Bella was from Russia. I forgot. I miss Bella. Okay. Everybody ready to follow along? We are on the subtitle, Canada's Political Regions. Because other countries, especially big countries like Canada, do you think it's easy for them, for one, Canada does have a president, do you think it's easy for one president to be in charge of the whole country of Canada? No. Canada's even bigger than the United States, and the United States has to be broken up into smaller political regions so that it's easier to govern. What are the smaller political regions in the United States called? What are the smaller? We have the country, and then we have these smaller political regions. What are they called? Zari?
Continent.
Not continents. Continents are much bigger. Zari, make sure you're listening to the question. Zadie?
States.
States. Very good. Well, Canada has to be broken up as well. However, they are not broken up into states. Listen as I read. Make sure you're following along with your finger or your bookmark, and I'll tell you what they are broken up into. I need to see everybody ready to follow along. You may think, this is stupid. Why am I putting my finger here? I know how to read. Well, guess what? It makes it easier. Use your finger, please, or a bookmark. Okay. Canada's political regions. Canadians divide their large nation into 13 smaller political regions. 10 of the regions are called provinces. So Canada doesn't have states, they have what? Victoria. Provinces. A province is a political region similar to a state in the United States. So number 1 is the word province. Canada has provinces, we have states. So they are very similar in the way they are run. They're just called something different. It's like how most of the United States have counties, but then we have Louisiana and Alaska that want to be different. And so instead of calling counties counties in Louisiana, they call them, who remembers what that word is? It's like a church. A church has one of these. Starts with a P. Kingston? A parish. And because Alaska also wants to be different, they don't have counties or parishes. They have what? Kingston? Boroughs. Well, the United States, because it's a different state, they don't have states. They have provinces. And a province is a political region similar to a state in the U.S. We're just going to write U.S. We don't have to write out United States because we know if we see U.S. where both letters are capitalized and there's periods between the U and the S and after the S, we know we're talking about what? Carla.
The United States.
The United States. So provinces are political regions similar to states in the United States. Now they don't say a political region in Canada similar to a state in the U.S. because there are other countries that also use the word provinces to describe their smaller political regions. Now Canada, even though they have provinces instead of states, they do still have, of course, cities and towns. That's the same no matter where you go. It's always a city or a town or a village, sometimes a hamlet, sometimes a township. But those are the same, other than they say them in their language. But instead of states, Canada has provinces. Okay, finger ready on the other 3 political regions. Finger or bookmark. We are on the other 3 political regions. The other 3 political regions are territories. A territory is an area owned and governed by a country. So number 2 is the word territory. Make sure you spell it correctly. If you can't see it up here, it's in your book. Territory. Now a territory is different from a province or a state because it is an area owned and governed by a country. We actually have territories too, because Puerto Rico is a United States territory. It is not a state because it technically has its own leader, but it is still owned and somewhat governed by the United States. Canada's the same way. They have 10 provinces, which are like our states, and they have 3 territories. We also have territories. Okay, when you're done, go ahead, finger ready on Canada's geography. So we just learned about Canada's political regions. What are Canada's political regions? What are they? We have states and territories. They have what? Smith.
Provinces.
And Colin? Provinces and
Territories.
territories. Okay, fingers ready to follow along on Canada's geography. Now we just learned about their political regions. Now we're going to talk about their geography. Canada's geography. Like the United States, Canada has a variety of landscapes. In fact, some landforms and waterways stretch across parts of both countries. Now, I talked about one of these landforms that stretches across Canada and the United States and all the way into Mexico. Who thinks they remember what that landform is? It's a specific one. Zari?
The Rocky Mountains.
The Rocky Mountains. They start way up in Canada, they go through the United States, and they end in Mexico. They are very long chain of, it's a very long chain of mountains. Okay, please read next. Victoria, loud and slow. Turn your body a little bit so that you're facing this direction. Everybody ready to follow along with your finger or your bookmark? You're covering up where we're reading, so you're not going to be able to follow along. A little louder so everybody, because everybody home needs to be able to hear you too, and the video needs to be able to pick you up.
Mountains with forests stretch across the western part of Canada. In central Canada, farmland and ranch land cover the interior plains. The Great Lakes and the
Who can help her out with this word? Aaron.
Fertile.
Fertile. So it's not fertile, it's fertile. It looks like fertile, but it's fertile. We've said it a few times, so. Okay. So read that sentence again.
The Great Lakes and the fertile St. Lawrence River Valley lie in the eastern lowland. Much of the northern Canada is very cold and icy.
Good. So, I guess I will pull down this map. If we look at Canada, I know it's very small. Mr. Bruce is looking for one in the high school building, or in the middle school building that's just the United States, because I have that over there, but this is just, whatever. So if we look at Canada, it said, what is Western Canada like? What is Western Canada like? Mason?
Really cold and icy.
In Western Canada, look at your book. That is what part? Northern Canada. Northern Canada is very cold and icy because what are you getting close to in Northern Canada? The what? Zari.
The water.
Not the water. Specifically what? What is at the very top of the earth? Kingston?
The Arctic Ocean.
I can't hear you.
The Arctic Ocean.
Not the Atlantic Ocean.
The Arctic Ocean.
The Arctic. Okay, but what's up there? Victoria.
The North Pole.
The North Pole. And we know where it's coldest on Earth is at the poles. So, Northern Canada is very, very cold and icy because it's getting really close to the North Pole. But what is Western Canada like? Zari.
Western Canada is like farmlands and ranchlands covered in the interior plains.
Are you reading? That's not the western part. What is Western Canada like? Look for that keyword west. Zadie.
It has mountains and forests.
It has mountains and forests. Just like northwestern United States. We know the northwestern United States, when we looked at that land use and resource map, we know there's lots of mountains and we saw lots of forests in northwestern United States. Well, Western Canada is very similar. What about the middle of Canada? What is the middle of Canada like? Think of that word that means the same thing as middle. What is the middle of Canada like? Smith.
It is covered in farmlands, and ranchland cover the interior plain.
Good, because remember, interior means inside or middle. Well, that's a lot like the middle of the United States. We have our interior plains, they have their interior plains, and we use them for similar things. There's lots of farmland, ranch land, very grassy, flat areas. And then what about the east? What is eastern Canada like? What is eastern Canada like? Come on, guys, everybody can find this. Those of you that are relying on the rest of your classmates, you are being very unfair to them to make them do all the work while you sit there and just wait. Mason.
Cold and icy.
That's northern Canada. Is northern the same thing as eastern? Make sure that you're looking for those key words. Okay? Zadie.
The Great Lakes and the Pearl St. Lawrence River lie in the eastern lobe.
Good. So remember, we see that key word east or eastern, and it says there are the Great Lakes, and it's very what? Zadie? Not low. What is the land like, the ground? It's very fertile, which means what? Who remembers what fertile means? What does it mean if land is fertile? Zari?
That the land is low.
Nope. Zadie?
Fertile is like, so it's good for growing stuff.
There you go. It's very good for growing things. It has lots of nutrients. There's a lot of it. So what do you think that they have there? Think about like where you get some of your fruit, like apples. Where do apples come from? What type of climate do apples come from? Smith?
A kind of warm climate.
Not kind of warm. That's like oranges. But can you grow apples in Florida? Do you ever get apples that say they're from Florida? No. Most apples come from cooler, wetter areas like southeastern Canada. Okay. So now we looked at some of Canada's geography. It's very similar to the United States, except for that northern part. Because does the United States have much area that is super cold and icy all the time? No. Even our most northern areas, other than Alaska, get warm in the summer. Like very northern Maine still gets warm in the summer, just not as warm as it does down here. The only place in the United States that stays cold and icy all the time is in Alaska. Well, Alaska, a lot of it is farther north than Canada. Okay, Victoria, tell us where our finger should be.
The border we share.
So find that subtitle, The Border We Share. Make sure you're following along with your finger or your pencil. I'm sorry, not your pencil, your finger or your bookmark. Okay, go ahead.
The border we share.
Kingston, you're not using that correctly. One line at a time, please. Don't play. Use a bookmark or your finger. If you do not have a bookmark, then you use your finger. One line at a time. Go ahead. Sorry, start that again.
The border we share. Because northern Canada is so cold, most people live in the south. About 2 out of 3
No, Canadians.
Canadians live within 100 miles of the United States border. They have plenty of space to spread, States share the world's longest unprotected border?
Good. So where is the longest unprotected border in the world? Between what two countries? Mason? Canada and the United States. Let's read this reading check question. Where in Canada do most people live? Where in Canada do most people live? See, I'm going to try to give a chance to somebody who hasn't answered questions today. Where in Canada do most people live? Kingston?
Most people in Canada.
Louder.
Most people in Canada live in the south.
The south of Canada, which is, tell me even more specific. Yes, most people in Canada live in southern Canada. That means not far from our United States border, but specifically, where do most people in Canada live? Kingston? You just said that, but more specifically. Even more specifically. Cullen?
At the very, very bottom.
More specifically. Zadie?
2 out of 3 Canadians live within 100 miles of the United States border.
So that means they live within 100 miles of the United States border. Who's ever driven to Nashville? Probably everybody at some point. You probably have. Nashville is 200 miles away. That means, imagine we're halfway, not a little further than Jackson, Tennessee. From Memphis to a little bit past Jackson, Tennessee. That's not very far, is it? That's how far most of the people in Canada live from the United States border. Within that pretty small amount of space. Because why would they not want to live way up north? Why would they not want to live way up north in Canada? Carla?
Because it's cold.
It's too cold. It's too icy. It's hard to get food there. I mean, you can get it. It's not impossible, but it's just harder. Very good. Okay, let's go ahead and turn the page. We're going to read about Mexico, and then we will say Central America and the Caribbean and Greenland for Wednesday. Okay, so you should be turned to page 86, and now we're going to talk about the other large country that is a neighboring country. Mason, where should our fingers be? Mexico. The title of this section is Mexico, so there's where your finger should be. Mason, go ahead and read. Read very, very loud and very slow, okay? You reread that title of this section, okay? Okay, go ahead.
Mexico's official
Oh, reread the title of the section.
Mexico.
Good.
Mexico's official name is
This is in Spanish. So think about your Spanish. Who thinks they can read this in Spanish? Zari, you want to try?
Estados Unidos Mexicanos means United States in Mexican.
Not in Mexican. But close.
In
It's kind
Mexican.
of without an accent, because I can't do an accent. It's Estados Unidos Mexicanos. So can you repeat that, Mason? I can't even do the accent. So it's just the Spanish words in an American accent.
Mexico's official name is
A little louder.
Mexico's official name is Estados
Unidos,
Unidos Mexicanos,
which means?
meaning United States of Mexico.
So, the way that we are United States of America, their official name, but a lot of people call us America, well, Mexico's official name means United States of Mexico. But instead of calling them that all the time, we call them Mexico. Good. Okay, Mason, a little louder so that everybody, including the camera, can pick up your voice. And slow so we can keep up with you, okay?
As the name explains, Mexico was made up of states.
Like the United States, Mexico also has one federal district that is not part of any state. This is where Mexico City, the capital of Mexico, is located.
So, Mexico's political regions, again, Mexico's pretty big. It's not as big as the United States or Canada, but it's still pretty big, and there's a whole lot of people in it. So they also need to break it down into smaller political regions that are easier to govern. Like the United States, these smaller political regions are called what? What are the smaller political regions in Mexico called? Come on, guys. Think about the name of the country. It says exactly what they are called. It just doesn't say the smaller political regions of Mexico are called blank. You have to be able to put the words together and figure out what words mean the same thing. Victoria? That's Canada. Canada has smaller political regions called provinces. Mexico has something different. They have smaller political regions. I even said, like the United States, Mexico has smaller political regions called what? Mason? Nope. You need to be reading this more closely. Don't just pick out words. Zadie? States. Again, listen to what I said. Listen to what I said. Like the United States, Mexico has smaller political regions called what? Well, think about the United States. What are the United States' smaller political regions called, Zadie? States. So if I say like the United States, Mexico is divided into smaller political regions called what? Well, you think, okay, well, the United States' smaller political regions are states, so that means, oh, Mexico also has states. Also, if you look in the paragraph that Mason just read, it said Mexico is, as the name explains, Mexico is made up of states. Does everybody see that? I don't think everybody does, because some people are looking up at me and some people are looking at the wrong part of the book. Everybody point to where it says that sentence. As the name explains, Mexico is made up of states. All of the information that you needed was there. But if you don't take the time or the effort to find it or to read it correctly, it's not going to mean a thing. Which is why some of your open book, open note tests and quizzes look the way that they do, because you do not take the time or put in the effort to figure out exactly what it's saying. You just find something and you're like, oh, that's it, even if it has nothing to do with anything. Focus. This is school. It's not supposed to be easy every single time, all the time. Otherwise, you wouldn't need to be here. What else is very similar to the United States in Mexico? They have states just like us. What else do they have that we also have? Michaela? They have one federal district. Is it part of a state, Michaela?
Yes.
Don't just guess. Look at what it says.
Oh,
No, because it says what? How do you know the answer is no?
because it says one federal district
Louder.
that is not a part of any state.
Because it literally says Mexico, like the United States, Mexico also has one federal district that is not part of any state. What is their one federal district called? What is their one federal district called? Zari.
Mexico City.
Mexico City. And what is our one federal district that's not part of any state called? What is our one federal district that is not part of any state called? Everybody should know this. Smith.
Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C. Everybody needs to know this. That's something that you should have already known coming in here. And just like Washington, D.C. is the federal district, but also the capital of the United States, Mexico City is also the what of Mexico? Colin,
Capital.
the capital. How do you know that?
Because it says this is where Mexico City, the capital of Mexico, is located.
Good. Okay. Please read next. Carla. Tell us where our finger needs to be.
Mexico. Photograph.
Not photograph. Go slow. It has graph in it like photograph, but it is not the word photograph.
Miss Wallace,
Yes.
can I ask my grandma Wendy that they need to go to another room?
Well, we'll pick somebody else, and then when they're done, I'll put your stick back, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'm gonna ask you.
Colin, please read next.
Mexico graph.
It's not graph. It has the word graph in it, but it is not graph. Graph is right in the middle, but there's lots of other letters in it.
Oh, geograph.
Geography.
Geography.
So start that again.
Mexico geography.
So everybody, finger or bookmark, ready to follow along. Colin, go ahead.
Mexico's geograph.
Does that sound like the word we just said?
Geograph.
Geography.
Geography. Mexico has a varied geography.
Geography. There's no R.
Geography. As in our country, two large mountain regions run through eastern and western Mexico.
So before that sentence, it says, as in our country. What does that mean? As in our country. What does that mean? If it says, as in our country. Zari?
Like it's actually it's in the country that we're in.
Okay. So if it's saying, as in our country, two large mountain ranges run through eastern and western Mexico, what does that mean? Victoria?
Like our country.
So what does that mean? Mexico has mountain ranges that run through the eastern and western in Mexico. If it says as in our country, that means what?
It means it has the same.
So that means what about the United States? If Mexico has mountain ranges that run through the eastern western part, and it says as in our country, what does that mean about our country?
It means that we also have two large mountain ranges run through the eastern and western.
Very good. So when it says as in our country, two large mountain ranges run through eastern and western Mexico, that means that's just like us, where we live. Who remembers, what are the names of those two mountain ranges that run in the eastern western part of the United States? What are the names of the two mountain ranges that run through the eastern and western part of the United States? Zari, what's one of them?
The Rocky Mountains.
The Rocky Mountains. Which part do they run through, Zari? The eastern or the western part of the United States?
The western.
The western part. What is the mountain range that runs through the eastern part of the United States? Come on, guys, you need to know this. A lot of you have been there. And that's kind of sad if you don't know what it is. Zari? Zari?
I just had it.
What is it called? It starts with an A. Carla?
Appalachian Mountains.
The Appalachian Mountains. Those are the ones, if you've been to the Smoky Mountains are a small part of the Appalachian Mountains. They run through our state. You need to know that. Come on, guys. We've talked about that like 3 or 4 times. So just like Mexico, the United States also has mountain ranges that run through the western part, which is the Rocky Mountains, and the eastern part, which is the Appalachian Mountains. Now, they have different mountain ranges, although the western one is the Rocky Mountains. I don't know what the eastern mountain range is called. Okay. Cullen, keep going. Tell us where our finger should be. Tell us the first 4 words.
The Mexican plateau stretches.
So everybody's finger or bookmark should be on the Mexican plateau stretches. Okay, hopefully that you're there. If not, you're messing yourself up. Go ahead.
The Mexican plateau stretches between the mountains. This is an area of
Not ranch. Go slow. Read the whole word. Don't just read the beginning and the end and then guess. Read the whole word.
ranch,
There's no N. Just work it.
rich farmland, and big cities. Much of northern Mexico is desert. The south has a winter
Not
climate.
winter. Make sure you read the whole word.
Wetter climate with grassy plains and forests.
So, northern Mexico is very desert-like. Well, think about the states that northern Mexico borders. What are they like? What is their climate like? Like Arizona, southern Arizona, and southern New Mexico, and southern Texas. What do we know about their climates? Zadie?
It's hot.
It's very hot. Does it rain a lot? What do we think of when we think of the United States? What plant do we all think of when we think of the southwestern United States? What plant do we think of? Mason? A cactus. Cactuses grow where it's very hot and dry. So we know that northern Mexico, which borders those states, does a climate change just because it's crossed a border? Does it say, oh, I'm not in the United States anymore, I have to change? No, we learned that because physical regions, do they have exact borders? No, they don't. So that means northern Mexico is very similar to the southwestern United States. But then you go further south and it gets wetter. What type of climate is hot and wet? Who remembers this from like 1st or 2nd grade science? What type of climate is very hot and wet? Starts with a T. Sometimes we say we wish we were on this type of island. Smith.
A tropical climate.
Tropical climate. We think of the equator as being part of a tropical climate. Think of where all the rainforests are. They're kind of in the middle of the earth, near the equator. Well, the farther south you go in Mexico, the closer to what you get. The farther south you go in Mexico, you get closer to what? Cullen?
The equator.
The equator. So it gets hotter and wetter. Okay. So there's the geography. There's mountain ranges in the east and the west, just like us. Northern Mexico is very hot and dry, like it's very desert-like. As you go south, it gets more tropical, it gets wetter. Is there anywhere in Mexico that we would describe as cold and icy? No, because why? Why is Canada so cold and icy, but Mexico is so hot? Zari?
Because Canada is closer to the equator,
Is Canada closer to the equator? Is Canada closer to the equator? What is Canada close to? Northern Canada is close to what, Zari?
the poles.
Which pole?
The North.
The North Pole. We know the poles are very, very cold. But Mexico is not very, very cold because it's closer to what? Zadie?
It's closer to the equator.
It's closer to the equator. We know the equator is very, very what? Hot. And in, I think, the next chapter of science we'll learn why. We'll learn why places closer to the pole are so cold and why places closer to the equator are so hot. Why is the equator so hot and the poles are so cold? Well, we'll learn about that in our next chapter of science. Okay, now let's read. So now we've read about the political regions in Mexico, which are called what? What are the political regions in Mexico called? Zari? States. We've read about Mexico's physical regions based on its climate. It's got hot, dry, desert-like climate in the north, wetter tropical climate in the south. It's got mountain regions. It's got farmland and flat regions. Now we're going to read about its economic and cultural regions because we're reading about its people and economy. Colin, please tell us where our finger should be.
Mexico's people and economy.
Mexico's people and economy. So everybody finger ready to follow along. Make sure that you're doing this. If not, you're messing it up for yourself. Nobody else. I'm not going to be sitting here making sure everybody's finger is ready. That's what kindergarten teachers, or not kindergarten, but first grade teachers do. I'm just going to give you that tip. And you can follow it and make it easier on yourself, or you can just flat out ignore me. And then when we get to the test next Monday, you'll be out of luck. Okay, Colin, go ahead.
Mexico people and economy. More than 100 million people live in Mexico. Most of them have Native American and Spanish backgrounds. Spanish is Mexico's official language.
So think about Mexico. What type of cultural region would it be based on its language? A what type of region based on its language? Mason. Very good. A Spanish-speaking region. Very good. What type of cultural region would it be in? They'd be very, what type of culture do they come from, mostly? Michaela? Native American. So it would be, their cultural region might also be Native American. It's an area where there are a lot of Native Americans. Now, we think of Native Americans as being people from the United States. But what's the whole entire continent called? What is the whole entire continent where Mexico is? What is it called? Carla?
The United States of Mexico.
No, the whole continent. The whole continent. Kingston? North America. So to the rest of the world, everybody that lives in North America and Southern America is an American because they're from North or South America. So if you go to another country and you tell people you're from America, well, they're going to be like, okay, where? Canada, Mexico, Guatemala, Ecuador, Brazil? You have to tell them, oh, no, the United States, because we're all Americans, technically. We're all from North or South America. So Native Americans are anybody who comes from North or South America. Okay, thank you, Colin. Read next. Michaela, loud and slow. Tell us where our finger should be first. Read us those first 4 words.
Most Mexicans live in cities.
Most Mexicans live in cities. Find that spot with your finger, and Michaela, make sure you read real loud, okay?
Most Mexicans live in cities, such as Mexico City.
Is that like the United States? Do most people in the United States live in cities? Think about it. Think about the populations of cities. Are they big or are they small? Carla?
Big.
Big. And think of the populations of very small towns in places that we would consider the country. Are they big or small? Waiting. Zari?
Small.
Small. So where do most people in the United States live? Mason? In cities. So that's another way that Mexico and the United States are similar. Okay, Michaela, keep going loud, loud, loud.
Many also live along the
Rio, there's no G.
Jen,
Grand.
Grand.
Go slow, Michaela. Read the whole word. Don't just guess.
This river forms much of the border between Mexico and the United States.
A little louder.
Important industries in Mexico include manufacturing, farming, ranching, mingling,
No, what is that word? Mining.
mining, and oil production.
So, they have a lot of very similar, Mexico really, okay, let's finish talking about this really quick. Told you we weren't going to finish today. Mexico is very similar to the United States in most of the things we read today. It's just the climate is a little different because they only have a very hot, dry area and a hot, wet area. Whereas we have all kinds of areas. We have hot, dry, hot, wet, cool, dry, cool, wet, whatever. We have all kinds. But other than that, Mexico and the United States aren't all that different. We both have states. We both have one federal district where that's our capital city. We both have a mountain range on the east and the west. Please make sure you're listening. Just because it's time to pack up does not mean that you can ignore me and get ready to go. We both have, we both do have many people who are Native Americans. We both have rivers and mountains and the same types of landforms. We also have the same kind of jobs. Important industries in Mexico and America are manufacturing, farming, ranching, mining, and oil production.